Hi guys, welcome to the preparing for the SAC session for data analysis. Now, there's no funny intro today, though I was trying to write a joke about social distancing. This was as close as I could get. Anyway, our goal today is to prepare for the data and analysis SAC. We're going to do that in two ways. Firstly, you guys need to know how to find and save a spreadsheet of data that you find from the internet. You need to know how to do this because this is what session 1 of the SAC actually is. It's finding data that you will be using in the next 3 sessions. And secondly, I want you guys to think about the types of questions we can ask you about that data. So for part 1, which is finding data, here are a few websites that I would suggest. Obviously, this is not exhaustive. A quick Google search will find millions of different websites with different data sets. Though I just wanted to have a quick look through these 3, just to show you what different formats the different data can have. If we click this link, Our World in Data is an awesome website actually, it's really cool. So if we look, you can search for if you're looking for a specific topic, but if we look at articles by topic, if we look at food and agriculture and micronutrient deficiency, I would suggest looking through a lot of these because there's some really cool articles. Micronutrient deficiency, you can see that it's got a bit of an article on the left-hand side here. This is, in some senses, this is the kind of report style writing that you guys, that we're expecting some level of during the SAC. If a question asks to write a report, then something like this is what we'd be looking for. So have a bit of a read through that. You don't have to read all of it. I'm going to scroll down until I find zinc deficiency. So this is what you guys will have to do. You guys will have to go to a website. You'll have to find some data. On this website, we'll click this data thing here, and it says global prevalence of zinc deficiency.csv. CSV means comma separated values. You can open this in Excel. All right. So we have the data now in Excel, and you might stop here, though. If you look at the data, you see that there's 753 rows. Now, I don't think you're going to be putting 753 rows of data into your calculator during the SAC. So you need to think about how many data points am I going to keep of this data. Now, a good idea is something between 25 and 30 is probably the sweet spot. Anything less than 20, and it's probably not enough data points to get some good accurate analysis. And anything over 30 is actually just adding extra time where you're not getting anything too much extra out of it. So if we pick 30 data points, actually I'm going to first show you guys what you can do to sort this data. If we press filter, we select all of it and press filter here, and we filter it so that we're only looking at 2005. So we don't want to select all, we want just 2005. We can see here we've got our countries, the code for what country we're in, what year it is. Hopefully you should only have 2005 here. And then here the percent means the percentage deficiency of zinc, or percentage zinc deficiency. So this is saying that Afghanistan had 20.2% of their population had a zinc deficiency in 2005. All right, we've still got here 189 rows. So if you look here, if you select it, we see 189 rows. That's still too much data. So I would say, why don't we go to something like, go to France, and we hold shift and press down until we see this button, or this number down here, go to something between 25 and 30. Here we've got 26. So we'll go down to Japan, and we'll select from France to Japan. We've got 26 data points. Control C, open a new Excel spreadsheet, and Control V to paste. Actually, you want to Control X and Control V down one row so we can put in the headings again. Countries, code, year, and percentage zinc deficiency. Cool. So now we have one data set with 26 countries and their percentage zinc deficiency. This is actually univariate data because we only have one variable, and that's the zinc deficiency. You might say, oh, countries are different variables too. In this case, it's too many categories. 26 categories is too many. So we're really only just looking at the zinc deficiency. All right, a question you might ask yourself now at this point, how can I represent this graphically? What sort of things can I talk about? Should I be using mean or median when I'm using a measure of center? And what measure of spread will I use? Will I use IQR or standard deviation? That's for you guys to think about and discuss amongst yourselves. Maybe ask me if you're really stuck. But this is how you can get data into a spreadsheet. Name this something like zinc deficiency. One thing I'll also ask you guys is, what kind of data is this? Is it categorical, numerical? And if it's numerical, which is it is it discrete or continuous? In this case, I'm saying that it's continuous because we measure it. We don't count it. We're not counting the percentage of zinc deficiency, we're measuring it. So it's continuous. All right, so we have that tab done. Cool. Let's look at one of the other websites. This dasl.datadescription.com. And the cool thing about this website is if you go to statistical method, you can look through here and look for different types of things that you might be looking for. So if you wanted to do a regression analysis, you might click this statistical method and it will give you a bunch of data that can be used to do a regression analysis, i.e. it will have two continuous variables in some sense. But I wanted to look at if we're just comparing two groups. So not necessarily regression, but we're comparing two categories or two groups. Scroll through here and I have one that I have in mind, which is product placement. So if we look at this product placement, you could have selected any of them. If we look at product placement, the story here is that somebody has worrying about their yogurt sales. And so what they did is to try to put the product on a different shelf and in a location near some other international product. So did one change. There's a before and an after. So before the change and after putting the product on a different place in the shelves. She kept track of the sales for 6 months after she made the change. Now you can look at a bit of the data here. Before the change, these are weekly sales, and then after the change, weekly sales. And that looks pretty good to me. And we'll download that in a .text file. Open this .text file. You can see that you've got here two columns here, before change and after change. Select all of that, Control C, copy, go into your spreadsheet, call this product placement. And you want to just go in this top one here and Control V, so paste. And we can see here, and just to remind yourself, move it all down, weekly sales. Before the change and after the change. All right, so now we have two categories, before and after, and we have, what kind of variable is this? It's a discrete numerical variable. Not continuous anymore, because we can only sell a whole number of these yogurt packets. So it's a discrete variable in this case. So now we've got discrete and categories before and after. I'd say they're probably nominal. All right. So cool, we've got two different types of data. We've got here continuous data, and we've got here two data sets, two categories of discrete. So two categories of discrete. And this is what I'd like you guys to be trying to do when you find your data. Label them as to what types of variables they've got. Finally, this last website This one's a bit trickier to use, but this one's probably the one which you would be able to find all the data you need in one data set. So if I just scroll down and I'll look at this section here, so you'll see there are all these data sets. If we scroll down, there's heaps. Look for one that interests you. I'm going to look at this one. 2004 new car and truck data. And I'm going to open that in a new tab. So that's what I've done. I just control clicked it. And this is what it looks like. So you've got the make and model of the car on the left hand side. And then you've got these columns of numbers with no headings. How do you know what the headings are? You open the other document. So this is the .dat, which is data. That's the one that we had before. If you open just the .text, you'll have a document saying, okay, vehicle name, then column 47 is is it a sports car? 1 for a yes, 0 for no. Most of these variables will be ignoring. But for example, 61 to 66, which are these ones, this is going to be suggested retail price, and this one here is going to be the dealer price, so the dealer cost. All right, now how do we open this in Excel? We can copy this to a text document and then open it that way, but a better way to do it, open a new sheet, go to data, the data tab, go from web, and it'll ask for a URL. So you need this URL here, this .dat.text. .dat.text. Okay, press OK. All right. Now we've got our name of the car in column 1. Column 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 have the 0, 1 values. And then here in column 8, we've got 3 numbers. We've got a 0, a 11,690, and a 10,965. That's not what we want. So what we have to do, and this is something that I'm not going to do all of it in this video, but I'll show you vaguely what you need to do. See how we've got from columns 1 to 45, we've got the vehicle name. In our delimiter, we've got 0 to 46, and it seems to be getting our column 1 as having the vehicle name here. So what we have to do is we have to adjust these final delimiters from, so 56, we want 58, and we want these delimiters at every gap between the data. So 58, so 57, 59, between 59 and 61, there's 60. And we want to go until we have all of them. And this is where I'll ask you guys to do the rest of these. 60. You press load. It loads in the data for you. And we're going to rename this car data 2004. Now you would probably want to rename the columns if you're just for completeness. So this is car name. Column 2, 3, 4 up to 8 are dummy variables which take a 0 or a 1. We don't care about those as much. What we do care about is the retail value and the dealer value. Now these two values here are continuous variables because they can be any number, any car value. You might want to do a regression analysis on these two variables because they are two continuous variables. So you can represent them in a scatter plot and you can do a regression analysis. So anyway, we've got now here 3 different data sets. Now for your SAC, you're going to need to find 4 data sets. You'll find out when we give everyone the SAC what types of data you'll be needing. But it's a good idea to get a bit of a head start and find some data that you're comfortable with, you're happy with, so that you're a bit ahead when we actually sit down and actually do the SAC. Now, for this part of the SAC, we're actually going to allow you to do a lot of this work at home and in groups. So this is going to be open book and between each other. And you're going to be finding data for what you're going to be doing for the next 3 sessions of the SAC. So yeah, just keep that in mind. You have a lot of leeway with this data finding session because we know this is something that you haven't done before. But it is a useful session, not only for the SAC, but also for life when you are looking at data sets. And let's say you wanted to open a business, you would want to be looking at the data for that industry or that sector of the economy to see whether it's a good idea to open a business, where it might be good to open that business. So finding the right data is actually a really important skill to have. The key takeaway here though is when you're looking for data, look for data that you're interested in, because it makes it so much easier if you're engaged in it, if you actually care about it. So for me, that might be something like basketball. But back in my nerdier days, I used to love Pokemon. And I ask you guys that are into it as well, just Google Pokemon stats database, as you can see I already have. And you get this awesome database of all the Pokemon that have ever existed and all of their stats on health points or hit points, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. And it's actually a really cool data set. And I would love it if you guys did an analysis on this. It doesn't have to be real world data. It can be any data that you're interested in. You will need to provide a URL for where you get the data from though. So just keep that in mind. All right, now I've been talking for a while now. An exercise for you guys to pause the video and do now is to go forth and find some data. Find data that has a nominal variable, an ordinal variable, a discrete variable, and a continuous variable. So that's our first exercise. And if you can find a data set that has all 4 in a single data set, that's awesome. Keep in mind as well, as a second exercise, we often want to compare data. So try to find data which compares 2 categories. We've already found one. See if you can find another one, maybe on that website, maybe on a different one, which compares 2 categories. You also might want to try to find a data set which you can put in a scatter plot. We already talked about that data from the car sales data, but see if you can find something else that has data that you can put in a scatter plot. And finally, something that we haven't done, but which I think has been plaguing the news and that kind of thing a lot lately, find time series data. The most common and the most prevalent time series data of this day and age is the coronavirus data, because we're getting daily updates on infection numbers. And that is time series because it's going day by day. So that might be a really good data set to use. But if you don't want to use that, please, feel free to find something else. Now, I'm not asking you to do these exercises just as like a little bit of practice. This actually will help you in the SAC. This is actual useful data that you will be able to use in the SAC, and you will need to use in the SAC.